Hi, I am Nikiwe, and Dr. Ella has said I was in this class working these fields not too long ago, and just today I want to share my journey on transitioning from chemistry to the corporate world. And yeah, at first glance it looks, oh wow, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. At first glance, the two, okay, there's a bit of a delay. At first glance, the two worlds seem very different, but I can assure you from my experience that it's quite similar. In a sense that you get to use the skills that you learn here in the corporate world. I have had a wonderful journey, but it wasn't easy. It was quite hard. And for today, I want to focus strictly on my hurdles, and then I'll go and share my successes so that you guys don't leave with just thinking, shucks, it's hard and no one to go there. All right. So the first thing that I had to tackle with was personal brand. Personal brand is, it took me a whole 9 months of starting to work there to sort of get around it. Because I grew up uh, in a very underprivileged place where I had to like step out of the world and just tell myself, I don't have to care what people think. So I've never cared about fitting in to any group. And that took me through my primary schooling, my high school as well. And I somehow survived MSC with that thinking still. If you've met me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I would pitch up for class whenever I felt it was necessary for me. I never really cared if someone else thinks I'm missing out on education or anything like that, because for me, at the end of the day, the science world was based on the work that I'll deliver. It had nothing to do with how, well, at least that's what I thought. To an extent, just the other day, someone was reminding me that I used to hold 2 bags to school with like an outfit. So I'd go to class with whatever it is I'm wearing, but obviously for safety reasons, I had to change into what I called my overalls. That's how much I cared about my own weird image. In any case, personal branding did not just stop at how I looked. With that was pretty easy. I just had to take clothes from my mother's closet and I was fine. But there were other things as well. Um, from how you engage with people, your visibility around the place. When you enter, do you seem like someone who knows what they're talking about? Because you could present the most beautiful piece of work, but you had to look the part as well. And that was one of the hardest thing I found very hard to battle. Because I was like, how do I stay myself and be uniquely me, but still have to have this persona that's very professional? So I'm still answering that today. But I've sort of for now found a balance that allows me to show up as my authentic self and just try bringing that personal side as well. And it doesn't just stop at the office. It goes with you wherever you go. Because unfortunately, clients are everywhere. So whatever I post on social media also matters. Whatever you post on WhatsApp, the things you like, it matters what you like. It matters what your comments are. Like for instance, I recently was just wanting to comment on the whole Uganda but you can't just do that because next thing you'll be sitting with someone from there who's your client, who is for the regulations that are there. So it's sort of a place where you have to think about your brand. What do you stand for? What do you want to be seen as in a, and you have to take that and carry it with you everywhere you go. So that was quite a thing for me. The other thing is business acumen. In a scientific world, we base most of our research and decisions on facts. But in a business world, you have to also consider the financial standing and the this word doesn't want to come out properly. The organization's visions and strategy. So that means you don't always have to go with the best solution, but you might have to take the second best solution because that will make more sense to the CFO of the business you're solving a problem for. That was something else for me. I was just like, this is the best one. Can we take that? But it's something that comes with time. I now get where that comes from. And it goes across so many aspects of doing business, from how you sell your product to how you price that product and just around everything else. The other thing is communication styles. That is my favorite because till today, I'm still the person that wants to go factual with facts. But then you find yourself having to dial down and dial it up depending on your audience, sometimes omitting some parts because you're still in the sales stage of things. And then even if you do speak to the whole solution, you sort of have to take the parts that will make more sense for that business and somehow try structure that in a manner that makes sense. Obviously with that's what I've just explained is a high level of it, but there is small things like what quantum means. In the scientific world, quantum is quantum. When you say quantum size, it's not interchangeable. But sometimes in the business or corporate world, you use a lot of buzzwords. Don't necessarily speak to the solution itself, but it is the art of the business. It is how the business works. It is that business jargon. And over time, you get to understand it as well. And you're just like, ooh, who have I become? But then it works over time and it does help in convincing people to give funds into solving a very serious problem that you may otherwise not solve if you keep to wanting to do things a certain way. As much as this journey was hard, the parts that really, really helped was focusing on my transferable skills. So that 9 months where I was just in my shadows wearing earphones and not engaging because I'm trying to find myself, what really made me shine at that time was focusing on the skills that I learned here, ones that I can transfer anywhere else, analytical skills, critical thinking skills, and just good work ethic, making sure that you submit things on stakeholder management, not overcommitting or undercommitting to things. So that was what made me shine. And as much as now I've learned all the other skills, I make sure that I focus on those skills to pull myself better and better. There are other challenges, so I just want to speak to them as well, just in case other people may face it. Some I did face myself, but some not so much. So for instance, when you do go into the corporate world, you have limited industry-specific knowledge in a sense that, I mean, I for a long time. So obviously someone else who has studied data science is going to know more about data science than I will ever know and in that specific time. So then you find yourself having to get comfortable asking questions and just wish it's not a stupid question, if that makes sense. So you just have that continuous learning and continuous adapting, and it just never, because you do start on a back foot. And then you just have to learn and you have to develop those transferable skills and make sure you make them stand out, even in rooms where it push all the IT words that they can push to you and you're like, shucks, so many acronyms. What are we talking about? But if you focus on who you are and you're true to yourself, you sort of get to bridge the academic gap and the industry gap. The other one that's particularly hard, it's in your networks matter. Who you know matters quite a bit. And now you've just left this world where you knew a whole lot of people and you're entering a place where you don't know so many people. Then you have to be strategic and intentional about building those relationships. LinkedIn becomes your best friend. And how do I put this? Just putting yourself in a space where you can extend, after the 9 months that I had, I would spend 2 hours a day. I meet someone and build a relationship. just so I can make sure that when I get to 4 years' time, I've catched up on the networks that I had, right? The other thing that's quite important is knowing how that business or that field works. With chemistry, you sort of get to learn that. You get to observe what Nosipo is doing, and you're like, oh, that's how it's done. And at the end, you may think it's intrinsic that you know that, but it's monkey do, monkey sees, monkey do. So you do learn from observation. In this space, you can't just rely on observation because you have to sort of catch up. And catching up means you have to be intentional about certain things. So that means you need to know, how am I going to be assessed in this business? How do I make sure I grow? And how do I accelerate all of that? Mentorship, coaching, those are important. Some people join the space already having coaches that have been coaching them since whenever. But having such skills and understanding why other people are having a comfortable life as opposed to you just sitting in a corner like myself really, really helps. But my story, as much as now I've just said the horrible things, it's quite a beautiful one. My LinkedIn there, or rather the parts of my experience LinkedIn there. This was the fastest trajectory they've seen in years in terms of promotions. And I think it's owed to how I was just intentional. Because I started on a back foot, there's a lot of intentional personal growth that I put in place. And I'd advise anyone sitting here that for you to do it, you need to understand the field you are playing at. You need to know the policies, you need to know the structure. Because to play the game, it's better when you know the tricks as well as the rules. I graduated top of my class. We started off, I'll just go back to this. We started off, if you see, it's lagging. Okay, if you see this picture here where the cursor is, that was our class of 2019. And in that class, I did graduate first. And I did graduate highest, and I reached manager the fastest, if that makes sense. I had struggled that 9 months. They actually called me to HR a couple of times. What I'm trying to say is it is doable. It will be hard perhaps at the beginning, but because you're having such a tough beginning, it helps you build strengths and skills that will propel you faster once that initial step is done, if that makes sense. So it's a beautiful story. I love telling it, not just to this group, but everywhere else. We engage a lot. It's nice, but some of it was just very hard in the beginning, but now it is quite nice. I wish I could go in and tell you about what I do day to day, but I want you to actually just hone in on how possible it is to start off at a back foot and graduate first at the end. It's quite amazing.
Thank you so much, Nikiwe.